I did a video last year about beta males and why it is they always stay luckless and never get ahead, period. But ever since Roe v. Wade got overturned, they have taken this to a whole new level. I found TikTok to be an endless treasure trove of beta males, white knights, and other luckless beings hoping they could lecture the rest of us. And all I can say is if you're a sensible man, hang on to your hats.
You've heard about the leak. I read the entire opinion, so now I'm going to cut through the BS and give you everything you need to be able to actually talk about this. Here are the facts. Mississippi has a law that bans abortions, all abortions, after 15 weeks. Right now, that law is illegal because of Supreme Court precedent. So in Dobbs, the Supreme Court has two options. The court can say the Mississippi law violates the Constitution because it conflicts with precedent, or it can say the law is constitutional, and if so, Roe and Casey must be overturned. In this draft opinion for Dobbs, the majority picked option 2. Here are 3 reasons why this is complete bull. First reason, the Supreme Court only wants to give you the rights you had in the 1700s.
Now, don't play this because it's a civics lesson. What I'm playing this for is I want you to understand and see just how emotional and ventilated this guy is over this. These fellas rely on virtue signaling. And there's a question I'm going to ask you when I get to the end of this that I really want you to keep in mind. But I want you to see how passionate and how emotional he is about all of this. Also, did you notice the poodle dog in the back? Did you notice the poodle dog behind him? Take a look behind his right arm and you'll notice the little poodle dog. So this guy is going to give us lessons. He's going to talk to the men about what we should be doing, okay? And take a look at the poodle dog behind him. So, all right. Well, maybe Jason is just being skewed here. All right. Oh, here's another fella here. He would like to give us all a piece of life advice.
It doesn't affect you. If you believe that someone's going to go to hell because they're going to have an abortion, then let them. If you don't believe in abortions, then don't have one. Mind your damn business. Here's the thing that's so crazy. It doesn't affect you. If you believe that someone's going to go to hell because they're going to have an abortion, then let them. If you don't believe in abortions, then don't have one.
Okay. Would I be remiss to say that this fella is not at risk for ever being in an abortion scenario? I mean, since his mom didn't abort him. Would I be remiss to say that he's never going to find himself in that scenario? So why is he so concerned and weighing in here again? Yeah, you have to understand, betas and defeated males keep coming into masculine circles. And there's a reason for that. And we're going to get into that a little bit. By the way, are you not convinced yet? This is the voice of reason. Are you not convinced yet? You need some more? I've got more.
But essentially, it's an issue of bodily autonomy. We take away a right that. For those who don't know what Roe v. Wade is, it was a landmark case in 1973 which ruled that the US Constitution protects a person's liberty to choose an abortion. Today, the US Supreme Court overturned that court case, which essentially means that all US states are free to choose whether or not their citizens have access to abortions. It's a huge backward step and will be extremely damaging and harmful to many people. The thing when it comes to arguing for abortion is that a lot of the time the arguments that are made can be in the extreme, i.e. what if someone was assaulted, etc. And those arguments are very valid, but essentially it's an issue of bodily autonomy. When we take away a right that fundamental to choose what to do with your own body, things get very dangerous very quickly.
Once again, I don't think that this gentleman is in any danger of ever ending up in such a situation with a woman. And this is the whole point I'm saying. These are guys who they are invisible to women. This guy isn't eligible to be in any type of pregnancy situation with a woman unless one of his sisters or his aunts gets pregnant. But he will not be sitting across the table from any female having to deal with this. And yet, he's decided he wants to weigh into the rest of the world. There must be a reason for it. Wonder what it is. Not done just yet. No, I'm not being ruthless here. I'm not done just yet, though.
If you care about human rights, please stop scrolling. Roe v. Wade will be overturned, meaning the reproductive rights of every person with a uterus are under attack. And we know all of this because of a leaked draft opinion. Bear in mind that these draft opinions are not created unless they intend on moving forward with them. According to the document, the intention is to no longer guarantee it on a federal level. However, there's speculation that many states will follow by making things like contraceptives completely illegal, meaning we will have millions of medical refugees who have to go to other states.
Now, all I can say is consider the source. I can't think of if this is the pro-abortion advocate, if this is the pro-abortion advocate, if this is the best you can do, and by the way, this doesn't matter whether you're pro-abortion or anti-abortion. What I'm saying is that if this is the guy who thinks he's going to lecture other men about what women actually want, he's claiming he's going to lecture the rest of us about not only what's in women's best interest, but what women actually want. And it begs a question. Do women even know this guy exists? And if they do, how many of them wish to have him in their company other than to braid their hair and help her move her television? That's the question I'm asking. With his 494,000 likes, he can have that all he wants to. The bottom line is, brother on the street, you are invisible. Not only are you invisible, they are spinning into donuts to circle around you. Okay, if you think the deck is too stacked in that regard, okay, maybe I'm just stacking the deck too much. Why don't we go to something a little less outlandish? Why don't we? Well, Jason, why don't you go to a medical professional, okay? Here's one.
The Roe v. Wade decision isn't as bad as you think it is, it's worse. Some 20-plus states are in the process of banning abortions or are likely to do so soon. When medical procedures are legal, they're carried out by credentialed, educated providers. But when medical procedures are made illegal, they are carried out in the absence of clinical guidance or appropriate follow-up, and risks go way up. This is not a political topic. This is a medical issue, and every major medical association, the American Medical Association, the American College of OBGYNs, the American Association of Pediatrics, has said that this decision is a mistake that will negatively impact patient health and safety. From the American Medical Association, states that end legal abortion will not end abortion. They will end safe.
Okay, now this guy is Dr. Knock. Not 100% certain if he's actually a licensed physician. But what I am saying is, as men,
the American Medical,
when you see this guy here who is claiming to speak on behalf of women and everything else, just wondering to myself here, how many women respect him? How many women are like, wow, this is the guy I'm looking for? I'm wondering about that. That's the only question I'm asking you right now. I'm wondering if that's the case. I'm not going to cast aspersions on him, but I am going to say that, by the way, how many women are saying, yes, this is my masculine representative? How many women are out there saying, yes, put him at the forefront. This is the masculine representative that we are dreaming. Let's try this a different way. He's talking about women getting abortions. Ask yourselves a question. The very women that he is sitting here lecturing us over, do they get pregnant by guys like him? Maybe it's so easy for him to detach himself from this because, by the way, the females he's talking about, would any of them ever get pregnant by a guy like him? Ever? Would they ever seek a guy like him out? Would they ever want to pass on his genes? I'm just asking an objective question here. Maybe he's not enough. So there's another one out there. And by the way, I got a list of them here.
I'm pro Emily, who went through IVF ending up with 6.
This guy thinks he's poetic.
I'm not pro murdering babies. I'm pro Becky. I'm not pro murdering babies. I'm pro Becky.
Okay. We're already off to a bad start, no matter how you slice this, by the way. Hopefully he doesn't say anything about minorities and black folk in here, but by the way, with just his first 2 sentences, he's already off to a horrendous start. This is a complete and utter lack of self-consciousness. It really is.
Who found out at her 20-week anatomy scan. I'm not pro murdering babies.
Very clearly, sir, if you're fighting this hard to convince us, you must be guilty of something.
I'm not pro murdering babies. I'm pro Becky, who found out at her 20-week anatomy scan that the infant she'd been so excited to bring into this world had developed without life-sustaining organs. I'm pro Susan, who was sexually assaulted on her way home from work, only to come to the horrific realization that her assailant planted his seed in her when she got a positive pregnancy test result a month later. I'm pro Teresa, who hemorrhaged due to a placental abruption, causing her parents, spouse, and children to have to make the impossible decision whether to save her or her unborn child. I'm pro little Kathy, who had her innocence ripped away from her by someone she should have been able to trust, and her 11-year-old body isn't mature enough.
Can you feel the masculine energy emanating from this guy? Can you just feel the masculinity? I mean, if you were a man operating and moving in this world, can you all feel the masculinity here? Am I the only one having difficulty here? What I'm saying is, forget how you might feel about abortion. What I'm saying is that this guy being the spokesperson, he's claiming that he's speaking for women's best interests. And I'm asking, how many women respect a guy like this? How many times has he been cheated on? Assuming, of course, he even likes women. How many times? What has occurred? Is he the kind of guy that would women ever get together and make a video about this for his sake? Would they ever do it for his sake? Well, no list here would be complete without some wannabe performer out there. Yes, some of these guys out here will do anything to stay away from child support court, but take a look at what he's wearing. First, I'm going to say, take a look at what he's wearing.
Women's reproductive rights as we speak. From the hood, we like to believe that right now we live in a country that challenges women's reproductive rights as we speak. From the hood, we like to believe that if it's not your uterus, you can shut the fuck up and mind your business. Right now we live in.
Okay, because I'm seeing a bunch of dudes in that audience out there, but all right. Seeing a bunch of dudes out there in that audience. So, all right. Okay. So far, how many women? Hey, ladies, you have the pick of the litter. You have the pick of the litter out here, ladies. Step on up. Your masculine protectors and providers are ready at your beck and call. Then there was this fella. Boy, oh boy. Then there was this character. I gotta let this video play. He looks like a whacked out Tobey Maguire, but I gotta let this video play. Some of you will be very offended. I apologize in advance, but I gotta let this video play.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. It is an egregiously wrong decision to send the question of abortion back to the states and let them decide, for the same reason that we shouldn't have let states decide whether blacks and whites could drink from the same water fountains or go to the same schools. And that's because this ultimately comes down to equality. Now, what state a woman is in determines whether or not she has the right to be as in control of her life as men do in every state, and that is not equality. Because of this decision, women in certain states, and that is not equality. Because of this decision, women in certain states will be robbed of the ability to decide whether or not they choose to accept the numerous health risks and potentially adverse economic consequences that are inextricably tied to pregnancy. And some states will even prosecute women who have miscarriages or force women to sacrifice themselves when an unviable pregnancy threatens their lives. And the fact of the matter is, a man could never be subject to any of this, despite the fact that he engaged in the exact same act to create a baby as a woman did. The moment you allow states to decide whether a woman should have to accept those risks and potential consequences, and any of them come to pass, she has been disadvantaged because of her sex. Because had she been born a man, she would have never been subject to any of those. The only way to make women as equally in control of their lives as men is to give them the same ability that allows men to control their lives, which is to not be pregnant at any given moment or ever become pregnant if they so choose. In this post-Roe era, we now live in a country where a woman's geographic location and not the Constitution determines whether or not she is entitled.
That's just video number one. He's back again. He didn't just do this once. I mean, this guy's like, let me just ride this for as far as I can. He's back again.
So the Supreme Court wants to send the question of abortion back to the states and let them decide. To start, this is an egregiously wrong decision for the same reason that we also shouldn't let states decide whether or not slavery should still exist, as we did in this country for many years. And that's because equality is guaranteed by our Constitution. It's not something people should have to ask for, it's not something people should have to fight for, and it shouldn't be at people's discretion whether or not women have the right to be equal to men. And yes, this is about equality, because despite the fact that women and men engage in the exact same act to create a baby, women are the only ones who could ever be subject to a broad range of health risks and often detrimental economic consequences that a man could never experience. For example, an increased risk of developing lifelong diabetes, the risk of dying during childbirth, the loss of career opportunities because their employers pass over them as they notice their stomach growing, and a proven loss of income for every child they have, including a significant loss in lifetime earnings compared to men if they are forced to have their first child before the age of 31. Now, despite having engaged in the exact same behavior to create the pregnancy, men cannot be subject to these health risks and adverse economic consequences. And the second you preclude a woman from deciding if she wants to accept those risks, and any of them come to pass, you have disadvantaged her because of her sex. Because had she been born a man, she would have never been subject to any of those. Now, since I don't think anyone here is suggesting that in order to maintain equality among the sexes, that we execute the father if a mother dies during a childbirth she didn't want to go through with, the only real way to make women as equally in control of their lives as men is to give them the same ability that allows men to control their lives. The ability to not be pregnant at any given moment or ever become pregnant if they so choose. Otherwise, you force us to live in a country where being born a woman leaves you less in control of your own life than had you been born a man.
Okay. First of all, take a look at the shirt, man. Take a look at the shirt. This is our masculine representative. While he's sitting here with his lisp and his outrageous sense of entitlement to wag his finger at other men. I use the word men advisedly. By the way, check out the shirt is the first thing I'm saying. Dude, no. Just no. So for those of you wondering here, I'm only really asking one basic question. And the question I'm asking is, do women respect men like this? Do women actually respect men like this? If you believe that the answer is yes, give me a thumbs up in the chat room. If you believe the answer is yes. If you believe the answer is no, not just no, but hell no, give me a thumbs down in the chat room and hit the likes button for me. The reason I'm having tonight's program is actually not, it doesn't have anything to do with abortion. What I am saying, though, is that take a look at the shameless level of pandering and groveling that these guys are doing. And you have to ask yourself, what the hell are they expecting? What do they think is going to be their reward? What do they think they're getting? Because none of them are in danger of ending up in a pregnancy situation with any female. None of them are in danger of that. So what exactly is it that they're pandering? What's the reward that they're expecting to get? Well, I happen to have the answer for you tonight. And we're going to go through this. First and foremost, why these guys pander so shamelessly? Because they want to undermine men. Because they aren't respected by other men. When you see this level of hostility towards other males, when you hear a guy talking about giving women the ability to have control over his life, with child support, control over whether or not he becomes a father, he didn't mention any of that. When you hear a guy sitting up here completely dismissing the risks that men take and the fact that abortion's not equal, there's no equality at all, it's all on the woman's side. He's not at all saying anything about himself and saying, by the way, there's another, here's what men don't get. Well, you're just shamelessly pandering to women. And what I'm saying here is when you do that, it's because you don't like other men. And if you all think I'm wrong, let's go back through these individuals. Does this guy look like he's respected by other men? With his Oprah Winfrey poodle dog back there behind him? Do you think that he's the dude that other men ask or count on for a damn thing? How about this one? Or this one? Or this one? Or this one? How about this one? Can't forget this one. Do any of these guys strike you as being the fellas that masculine males have ever looked to or counted on for anything? Do any of these guys strike you as having the respect of other men? That when they go around other men, they're looked up to and admired. Other men look to them to partner in business and finance. That other men expect them to have answers to problems. The other men look to them to say, hey, here's an example of how I can get my life more stable. No. If you take a look at them, these are the rejects. These are the social rejects among actual men. Men don't have anything to do with this clown car. And that's why they're so angry. So they're like, well, to hell with it. I'm not going to get respect from other men anyway. I'm not going to get anything. So I don't have to pretend I'm here to disrupt what any other male would get because I'm not eligible for anything. I'm not eligible. I'll never be respected among the men. So if I can't roll with the fellas, I'm going to try to roll right over them. But I'm not a guy that other men fool with. So I hate other men. And we won't even get into the single mother dimension of this. How many of these guys were raised by hood rat single moms so they identify with the lowest of the low females? So for them, they would love to punish men because in their minds, they're vicariously punishing their fathers. But the first thing here is understand they have hatred for other men because they know that they're not respected in circles of other men. Do you think Nevish here is respected in male circles? Do you think there's a circle of masculine men who work on cars, work on houses, hunt, fish, do anything here? This guy looks like he would be on the makeup aisle with the females. Do you think that this guy is respected by men? Do you think he goes anywhere where other men look up to him and admire him and consider him a masculine male role model? At any time in his entire life, has he ever been looked at as a masculine role model, as a masculine comrade of other men? Ever in his life has he ever enjoyed having the admiration and genuine respect of other men? No. And since he's not eligible for it, he's like, well, to hell with it. If I'm not eligible for it, then I don't have to worry about it then. If you guys are not going to respect me, I'm going to use the women. I will team up with the women who hate you. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. And we're going to get to that part here in a moment. We're going to get to that in just a moment. But how many men are looking up to him as a masculine role model? By the way, folks are not hitting the likes here tonight. I must have a flood of beta males who are like, damn, Jason, you hurt my feelings over here. So apparently I'm hurting some feelings and busting some chops tonight. Apparently I am. If you all feel this is a necessary program here, hit the likes button and give me go ahead and share the program tonight, because a lot of folk are not liking it. A lot of folks are not liking it. The next issue here, they can't genuinely attract women, so they beg. This is nothing short of begging. It is pathetic. It's embarrassing. But he doesn't have any other option. Just understand, if it wasn't for him sucking up to females, what females would genuinely attempt to be in his company? What females are genuinely attempting to be in these guys' company? What female is genuinely proud to introduce this guy to her family as her male companion? You see, a fellow who can't attract females, he's going to be like, well, hell, his way of interacting with them is to just kiss their ass. And it would be different. The crazy part about this is it would be different if their ass kissing actually worked. Dude is sitting in the car by himself, yelling and screaming at other men on behalf of a bunch of females who don't even know this clown exists. The closest he's ever come to females is the likes on this video. But in the real world, he is invisible. And he has been his entire life. Females have never noticed him, never gravitated to him, and yet he's their biggest cheerleader at this time. It's not because he loves women. It's because he doesn't have the respect of other men, and he sees this as a proper vehicle to punish all the men who don't respect him. And that list is very long. Very long. But he can't genuinely attract women, so he begs. And for a fellow who is all out of options, begging is admirable. For him. The next reason is because his weakness no longer shames him. You should be ashamed. You should be ashamed to wear that shirt. You should be ashamed to be this damn weak. You should be ashamed to be this damn moist, this damn limp, this damn defeated. You should be ashamed. You should be ashamed when you look in the mirror, and yet they're not, or at least they pretend not to be. And yet they're not. Why? Because they're no longer ashamed by their weakness. Their weakness no longer shames them. They've been living in the slop for so long that they don't even notice the stench anymore. They don't even notice the stench anymore. They don't even notice the fact that, by the way, you're a damn laughingstock and a punchline to women. They don't even notice it anymore. They've been sucking up so long, they don't even realize how far they've fallen. They're comfortable in their weakness. And that brings me to the last point here. The friend zone is all he aspires to now. The friend zone is all he aspires to. He doesn't look to anything else. He doesn't expect anything else. It doesn't bother him that the women mock him anymore. He's just like, well, hell, if this is the best I can do. He doesn't mind the fact that every time he shot his shot, the women just sit there and giggle at him and then keep moving. He's like, hell, this is the best I can do. Women are not attracted to a man who is the laughing stock and looked down upon by other men. Women don't look up to that. Women don't look up to that. Women are not looking for a man who has no respect, no admiration from other men. So when these guys are sitting up here, they know, hey, I'm in the damn friend zone. These guys are doing a life sentence in the friend zone. These fellas are doing a life sentence in the friend zone. They've been sentenced to life. And they know they ain't never getting out. So at this point, they're just like, well, hell, as long as if I can drag some other folks down with me, I'll be comfortable. But this is as good as it's going to get. Being in Becky's friend zone, that's as good as it's going to get for him. And he has accepted his fate. He's accepted his fate. He has just accepted that this is all it's ever going to be, he has already reached the peak of desirability by females. There's no point in trying harder. There's no point in trying harder. There's no reason to try to become a more masculine male. He doesn't even have a frame of reference to accomplish it or complete it. There's no reason. Hey, I'm in the friend zone. Understand, guys in the friend zone figure that eventually they'll get to graduate out of it. And don't get me wrong, some of these fellas who are in the friend zone, they might be able to get a female somewhere to look in their direction. They might even get one of the less ugly ones to lay up with them. Here's the problem. After all of that voracious begging, after all of that shameless pandering, after all of that humiliating and embarrassing himself, if he does actually get one of the straggler females to give him the time of day, if she actually does feel so sorry and pathetic for him, oh yeah, she ain't got a better option, that she actually does lay up with him, he's going to be so lame, so weak, so unmasculine, she'll never do it twice. It doesn't matter how bad her situation is. Fellas, you don't understand how absolutely terrible it is for a female to hop into bed with a fellow who's not masculine. She's literally like, oh my goodness, I opened my soul, pardon the expression, up to a waist. There are very, very few things that make a woman feel worthless than to realize that she's laid up with a fellow with no masculinity, because she can't even pretend that wasn't an L. That completely drags her value down in her own mind. This is one of the guys that a female doesn't put on her body count. This guy right here, a female would abstain, pardon the expression, from putting him on her body count. She would say that this guy doesn't count. When you go over her list of sexual partners, when you bring up his face, even if you had it on video, she would tell you he doesn't count. No, he's not part of that number. He doesn't count. Do you realize, fellas, when a woman sits up here and says that about you, you realize she's talking about abortion, she's Xing you out of existence. Now, the killing thing about it is, even if he did convince her to sleep with him while he's in the friend zone, the problem is she is immediately at her first opportunity going to go look and see if she can go get a fella out there who's actually got some masculinity about him. That's going to be the first thing she's going to be looking for. If she did actually wind up sleeping with Nevish here, the very next fella she goes for, she's going to try to go for the most alpha dude that she can. She's going to try to go for the most alpha fella that she possibly can. In other words, the exact opposite of him. The exact opposite of this guy. That's going to be who she goes for. After all of his begging, his shameless pandering and whining, after all that sucking up, if she actually has a choice in the matter, she going for something other than him. Something completely different from him. She isn't even going to look in his direction. She doesn't even know he exists. On your screen right here is the definition of defeated. Now, he might have other reasons for that. And here's another one here. Some of these guys may have alternative reasons for doing so. But let's be very clear. All these guys on here are not gay. They're not all gay. But they have certainly accepted that they are not any female's prime option or choice. But they're also not wanted among the men either. And let's be very, very clear. A woman will keep a beta around. You see, a woman has a use for a beta. A beta will give her money and trick it off. A beta, she'll call him to help move her furniture or move her TV. A beta is a dude she can call for anything. All the grunt work that a real man is not going to answer the phone for unless he's her man. The beta is always available for that. Women have always got two betas in their back pocket. A woman is always going to try to keep at least one alpha in her front pocket and two betas in her back pocket. Because she knows she needs somebody to help carry the furniture, but that he has already been excluded from any possible sexual access. And in his mind, having proximity to women is a win. Just if he can be close to him. He ain't even demanding to get in bed with him. If I can just be close to him, I'm winning. So you understand that he spends his life in a perpetual state of losing, which he actually thinks of as winning. But in truth, he's just spinning his wheels. And that's all. And that's all it's ever been. And that's all it ever will be. And it's unscrupulous. But the Roe v. Wade decision, no matter where you come down on it, it doesn't matter how you feel about abortion. I'm only asking one question tonight. I'm only asking one question. Do women respect guys like this? These fellas have gone out of their way to pander to women on every level. Hey, I'm more in favor of the girls than the girls are. And I'm going to open up the phone lines here. I'm going to open up the phone lines because I want to give an opportunity to speak, especially to the women. I want to give an opportunity for the women to speak here and explain to all of us, do you respect men like this? You can hear what they're saying. I mean, they are team estrogen 100. Do you respect guys like this? You hear what they're saying. You hear what they're saying. Do you respect them? Is this the guy that you want to be around? Is this the fella who ignites your feminine energy? Is this the fella that you are envisioning in your head and you fantasize about carrying his children? Is this the one? Based on what you've seen and based on what you heard, is this the one? Because, I mean, these guys are going for it. They are just going all the damn way. They are just putting it all out there. And you figure if you're going to go this far for it, then you must be winning. So maybe I got it wrong. Maybe I have a misinterpretation of it. Maybe I'm misreading the events. So I'm going to give you all an opportunity here to call up and you can explain it. And especially I want to give priority to the women in particular. I want to give a priority to the women about this because I want the women to weigh in so people can hear whether or not this actually works. Do women actually respect this? As women, do you actually respect men who behave in this manner? Because there's a lot of guys out there, you all have seen it to an absolutely sickening level, I'm sure, in the last week. It doesn't matter where you come down on it. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. What I'm saying is that, is this something you can be proud of as a man? Is this one of the boys, one of the dudes that you want to have on your team? I wouldn't trust this guy to fix a parking ticket for me. But as I say, I'll let you weigh in on that. The telephone lines are now open. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Your personal access code to the program that laid the foundation upon which all the Red Pill MGTOW and all these other folks out here have been taking their philosophies and opinions from. Need to have an opportunity here to go ahead and lay it out tonight, because when I see this many males out here fighting this hard for something that doesn't even apply to them, that's embarrassing. That's shameful. At least you should be. That is embarrassing and shameful. And you think what you're doing is you think that you're getting some type of a leg up over other men. You think that you're gaining dominance over other men. So what it really does show you here is a lot of these guys here, they've been living, being ostracized by other males so long and being dominated by other females so long that, man, they've just grown used to the stench now at this point. The stench doesn't bother them. I'm also going to go ahead and post up the Zoom link in the super chat. So go ahead and check that out. I've gone ahead and posted it up for you here as well. I want the men to also give me a call tonight as well. I want the men to go ahead and give us a call tonight as well. I want the men to give us a call tonight as well. So you can go ahead and let us know. By the way, maybe Jason's wrong. Jason, you need to understand, we do rock with dudes like this. We do rock with dudes like this. So if that's not the case, if I'm wrong about that, go ahead and give us a holler here as well. The telephone number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. The telephone lines are now open here. Zoom is also open as well. I do give priority to Zoom, so if you call in on Zoom, you do get priority for being over there. Got a few phone calls here I'm going to go ahead and see about. Let me go ahead and hit the right button to bring those up. All right, we got caller from area code 518. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello, Jason. This is Mary. I'm calling from Albany, New York.
Mary from Albany, and what's on your mind?
I would say no, women don't respect men like that. Women respect men who speak their minds, who set boundaries, who are able to lead, and who are firm. Pandering to women like this, everybody knows, every woman knows when she has an abortion whether she made a wrong or right decision. And you don't need to lie to us or pander for us to believe in our own mistakes. I mean, we know when we're living right and when we're not. And abortion, in my opinion, is inherently wrong. So I don't need somebody trying to convince me that I did right. Long story short, no, we don't respect men like this. We respect men who put their foot down, who can lead, who are firm, who are masculine, and who don't take any bullshit.
Well, here's my thing about this, though. Regardless of how you might personally feel about abortion, regardless of that, I'm really just talking about personality, character-wise. Are these the kind of guys, are these the type of men that you as a woman are for lack of a better term, you are attracted to respect. Now, these are guys that you can see how they handle themselves, how they comport themselves. You can see how they present themselves in front of other people. You can see how that's going. And the real thing is, you can see they're trying very hard to be your best friend. And is it working? Are you respecting them?
No, absolutely not. A woman does not respect a man who says what society or the left. We don't respect men who lie. Speak the truth, call us out when we're bullshitting. We need to respect a man. And that hinges on you being honest, standing in the truth, not your truth, but the truth, being firm, being masculine, setting boundaries, and being a leader. And none of what they're doing, all the 4 or 5 men I saw in the videos, none of them were doing that. You don't win a woman's respect by being a follower or saying what she expects or what society expects for you to. These are not men who have any, lack of my balls. They don't have any courage. We respect men who have courage, and we respect men who respect themselves. And absolutely not. Given the choice between this man and a gladiator, a woman would always go for the latter. They would never go for a weak man who doesn't respect himself. Absolutely not.
All right. Thank you very much for weighing in here tonight. We appreciate having your input. Let me get caller from area code 727. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from? Caller from area code 727. Last try. Put the pipe down.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, sir. You can stop rubbing on yourself right now. You're on live.
Oh shit! Hey, Jason, it's Akeem. I'm in Florida.
I guess he's going to tell us now about how he has his life together. What is on your mind?
I agree with you guys. Yeah, I think women don't respect men that pander. I don't think anyone respects a man that panders. No one respects anyone that panders. If you're afraid to speak your mind, you're afraid to say what you truly think and feel, why would someone respect you? It's an unrespectful thing to do. I mean, if you want respect, you have to act in a respectful manner. And I think a respectable person is someone who speaks honestly and earnestly.
And what do you see as
That's all I got to say.
So what do you see as being dishonest about these guys? You don't actually believe that they are honest in what they're saying, or that they genuinely believe in it?
No, I mean, not completely. I'm not saying that they're 100% being dishonest. I do think that they maybe slightly have the same notions as women, but I think that they're more so kowtowing to the general idea that women have, right? I think that would go for any position that women hold. They would simply aggregate whatever they currently have with what the women have. So they sound more pleasurable to them, and the women like them more because they think that's going to give them some, I don't know if we can say the P word on here. Give them sex.
Okay. Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. He needs to calm himself down. Let me get caller from area code 646. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Onan from Queens.
Onan from Queens. And what's on your mind?
Yes, sir. So I actually wanted to ask you if you believe that there's a correlation between sexuality and masculinity.
Okay. In what way do you mean that exactly?
So, do you believe that someone who is gay or bisexual could hold the same standing as a man who is straight in the eyes of the general public?
Okay, so you're talking about public perception of his masculinity as opposed to any objective measurement.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if there's an objective way to measure masculinity. I think that's more in the eye of the beholder, so to speak.
Yes, and no, because obviously it's not an absolute, but certainly what you see women respond to. And I never saw a weak male that women naturally just responded to. Now, he might be able to, there is that which attracts attention and then that which gets attention.
Right.
So certainly, I mean, if you're not exerting a certain type of energy, if it's very, very obvious that that's not who and what you are, then yeah, it's going to be very, very hard to take you seriously. Do you believe that a man who is not heterosexual strikes women as masculine in any way?
Well, I think they can.
How so?
I think someone.
Well, let me find out how so.
Okay. Well, a man who stands on this principle, someone who is not afraid to be who they are, regardless of societal judgment, I think is the most masculine person out there, regardless of their sexuality. And I think the men that you see today are an end result of the decades of, in my belief, the society and media constantly beating up on this, I guess, stereotypical perception of what a man is, the kind of like the steak eating, ripping his shirt off, super uber masculine. And I think that has repercussions, especially in the Black community, because I do believe that hyper masculinity is a problem, especially when it comes to Black men in particular. But I think it serves the same detriment as like the strong Black woman stereotype. The Black women are just supposed to overcome all of these obstacles.
Okay, let me make sure I understand properly what you're trying to say here, because I heard you just say that you think that hyper masculinity is just as much of a problem as what exactly?
Well, I think the perception of people, especially men, having to prove themselves to the general public as being like these like super masculine guys. It's like they're almost overcompensating, right? To prove themselves.
Give me an example so I can figure out what you're talking about here. Give me an example of a man that you think is overcompensating for his masculinity or lack thereof. Give me an example of what you mean by that.
Okay, well, O.J. Simpson. I think O.J. Simpson, if you look at O.J. Simpson during the 60s and 70s, he was kind of like I guess he was like the statue of Black masculinity. And, when he went on to do what he did, it kind of like dampened what people thought about him. But I find him to be like a prime example of what people would like. Okay, externally.
You're saying a whole lot, and you're not really saying anything. What about O.J. Simpson made you feel that he was falsely hyper masculine?
Well, no, I'm saying the image that he portrayed as being like this like super strong ultra football player, was able to
did he present that image, or did somebody else present that image?
I think somebody else. I think it was.
Now there's a reason why I'm entertaining this questioning as long as I am. Because here's the thing: when I hear somebody use the term hyper masculine, what in the world is hyper masculine? Because I've never heard anyone use the term hyper feminine. Now we've heard hypersexualized or over sexualized, but we haven't heard hyper feminine. So I keep asking this, and the answers you're giving are not really describing it. Well, O.J. Simpson, he was hyper masculine, but you're not actually explaining how or why. You're not explaining how he was hyper masculine. You're just giving him as an example without actually substantiating it. So I'll try again. What do you mean? What O.J. Simpson, give me a modern day example of what you consider to be a hyper masculine male. So, and also, by the way, the reason why I'm saying is because you presented it as a negative. So if you're going to present hypermasculinity as a negative, okay, give me a modern day concept or a modern day example of a hypermasculine male who in that negative connotation that you were referring to earlier.
Well, I'll go to Future. I think that Future is a stereotypical sort of this alpha male impersonator who tries to it's like he tries to project his masculinity by, showing the amount of women that he could sleep with, or, you could even take...
Well, does he show... I mean, here's the thing. Does he show anything? Because if the women are lined up to sleep with him, you're saying hyper-masculine, but the females are lined up to sleep with him. So according to the females, obviously they consider that to be a very highly attractive trait.
Right. And to me, that's the problem, right? Like, it's not so much feminine attention, right? But it's like, okay, what are you sacrificing?
Well, okay, it's not feminine. It's not feminine attention. If this is what the women are responding to, and you're trying to classify it as a negative, one of you is wrong.
Well, both of them could be right.
No, sir. No, you can't say this is hypermasculinity and that's a negative, and the females are like, bring on the hypermasculine.
All right.
I mean, you can't sit up here and say, well, the hypermasculinity is a negative. Okay, define what you mean by that. Well, this guy over here, okay, why is it that let me try this a different way. Why is it that you are offended by hypermasculinity and the females obviously are not?
Well, I'm not offended. I'm not offended by hypermasculinity.
But you just spoke about hypermasculinity as a negative.
Well, I'm saying that as far as what society is projecting, what men are supposed to be, right?
Okay,
it's
but society hasn't projected the future should be that, though. So if Future didn't have all those baby mamas, if he behaved exactly the way he does otherwise and didn't have all these kids by all these women, would he then no longer qualify for your negative hypermasculine narrative?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Because there's the real thing about it. I think some fellas out there, they have an issue with other males who have more sexual access than they do. Or that they feel like, okay, something's wrong because this guy appears to have more sexual access. And it's not society that gives them that. Society doesn't give them that. The women are the ones who have to approve. They're the ones who have to say that. So hypermasculinity, like I say, is a term that really doesn't mean anything, which is why when I asked you, okay, what is it? Well, he can sleep with a bunch of women. Okay, well, if he didn't have all the kids with those women, would you still say that? I'm not sure. So he was sure before, but the real thing is that the children are indicative proof of his dominance and conquest of those women. It's proof that he's marked his territory. So the real issue here is he's defining hypermasculine as men who dominate their territory.
Okay. So you don't believe that there's just a carryover from slavery where, black men were basically forced to...
No, because...
You don't believe that? Okay.
No, because the first thing that you said was that, and this idea that men have to prove themselves in society. Sir, that's what it means to be a man. The problem we have today is that young males are not being required to prove themselves. You see that proving yourself, there's another term for that, rite of passage. That before this society puts you in the position of giving you the label or the name of man, because man means something. It doesn't just mean a male of a certain age. For us to call you, we stop calling you a boy and we start calling you a man. Well, that means you've done something. And it used to be that we required you to do something. You had to demonstrate some type of core competence before we would call you a man. You had to be able to fight. You had to be able to hunt. You had to be able to make a fire. You had to be able to fix things. You had to be useful. You had to be reliable. When they talk about a handyman, you had to be handy, root, hands. You had to be useful, resourceful with your hands. You had to prove something. That's what it used to be. So for you to take I'm just saying, for you to take offense at the idea that, well, these men feel like they have to prove something to society and the world, but that's what it means to be a man. That's exactly what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be doing that, because how do we filter out the dominant genes from the ones that are weak? Weak genes are sitting in their little holes doing nothing. Dominant genes are going into the world and exerting themselves in some manner. So yes, by definition, that's not hypermasculinity. That's just masculinity, period.
I hear what you're saying, but I think like a lot of those characteristics have kind of atrophied over the years. But with the advent of modern technology, it's like men, like, we don't have to go out and live in hunter-gatherer societies like we had to do thousands of years ago. We didn't have technology at our hands, right? Where we didn't have supermarkets that we could go shop at.
Right, but that doesn't mean that nothing is demanded of us now. That doesn't mean that nothing is demanded of us now. And one of the major metrics, not the only one, but one of the major metrics that you are fulfilling that is the response that you get from females. Because females are not going to do those things. They're looking for a man who demonstrates that he can. Ideally, they are. So when you talk about proving yourself, yes, that's what men are supposed to do. We're supposed to prove ourselves. We're supposed to prove ourselves in front of everybody else. And the reason for proving yourself in front of everybody else is so that there's no doubt about it. You see, if the only place you prove yourself is in some hidden corner and nobody can verify it, you might be a liar. When you're required to do it in front of everybody else, it's like, hey, that's the real damn thing. And that's what's supposed to happen. We're supposed to respect somebody who can do this in front of everyone. We're supposed to respect that. And we're supposed to prove ourselves. As a man, you're supposed to challenge yourself. Whoever is the biggest and strongest dude out there and whatnot, there's supposed to be a part of you that seeks to prove itself, because he might not be. Here's the issue, Onan. What if you were actually the biggest, strongest, or smartest one? What if you were? What if that guy that you think is the biggest or the strongest or the smartest, what if he actually wasn't? What if you were? Because you see, he's going to get the right of leadership as a result of those character traits. But if he's not actually the biggest or the strongest or the smartest, and I'm not giving those in order of importance, but if that guy actually isn't and you are, you do realize you're allowing the person who isn't best suited to lead to do so by default.
I understand that point. And it's a valid one, right? My only issue is that I find that a lot of men, they tend to go overboard, and it's like they try to overcompensate, right?
Yeah, you said that before, and that's what I said. Give me an example. The only example you gave was Future. Well, he sleeps with a lot of chicks, or he gets a lot of chicks pregnant. But
I said O.J. Simpson too.
Okay, but you didn't explain how that was hyper-masculine.
Okay.
Once you say it's hyper-masculine, I'm then going to look for what is hyper-feminine so that I can see what the counterpart to it is.
Okay. So with O.J. Simpson, I bring him up because he had what we already know to be a very raucous relationship with Nicole Brown. I mean, there was years of documented abuse. And, I mean, even by his closest friends, he was labeled as a womanizer. And I bring him up because he's a very popular figure that I think we can all at least identify. And he had certain traits about him that I found, right? And listen, this is just my opinion. This is not objective truth. You could pick it apart, do whatever, right? I'm just saying.
Being objective certainly helps, but here's the real thing. Having access, sexual access to a number of different women makes you hyper masculine. It doesn't just make you masculine.
It's just one thing.
And furthermore, you're raising that as a negative. So having sexual access to more than one woman is a negative.
No. I don't think that's a negative at all.
But you just raised it as a negative. That's my point.
Okay. Well, listen, I'll land the plane there. I know you got other callers that want to get on. I'm not going to take up time.
All right. Thank you very much for giving us a call. I want to try to go ahead and walk that logic, dare we say the word, out so that you all can understand there and see. Like I say, those are subjective terms. Somebody tries to tell you hypermasculinity, well, then by default, by definition, there must be a hyperfemininity. But they never get around to that part. Let me get caller from area code 404. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from?
How you doing, Jason? This is Doug from Atlanta.
Doug from Atlanta, and what's on your mind?
Well, I wanted to answer your question, the question that you asked earlier before taking calls. Do we rock with dudes like that? The obvious answer is no, in my opinion. The reason why? I honestly think dudes like that will get you killed. These are the kind of guys that will shout out the slogan, protect black women. But when it comes to actually participating in activities that are required in order to actually provide protection for black women, they will call that toxic masculinity. So when something actually happens to where you actually have to protect black women, that dude will be nowhere to be found, and you'll be left doing all the protecting of not just the women, but his ass too.
You're correct, but only if any man were to ever actually keep company with that guy. There's the real problem, is your scenario would actually never happen, or at least is very unlikely to happen, because most men are never going to keep company with that guy in the first place. Because they know he's not a stand-up dude. If something goes down, I'm by myself. And because you as the men would never keep company with that guy, guess who's also not keeping company with him? The females. Because the females understand if the thing goes down, Nevish over here, who's kissing my rump and giving me my way and simping and pandering, he's easily exploited, but he's also easily dominated. And women understand this. So women will use him and exploit him and take what they can get from him, but they don't respect him because they know he's going to leave her helpless. And women are hypersensitive to that physical helplessness situation. They're sensitive to that on a level that men simply aren't, because they worry about a different set of issues than we worry about. I've told y'all about the dark parking lot. Men are worried that something could happen to them in the dark parking lot. Yeah, you could be shot. You could probably even be killed. You could be robbed. You might get shot. You might get killed. A woman, the one thing that a man doesn't think about, a man doesn't think I could get stabbed, raped, and killed. Now, that part you're not thinking about. You're not thinking some dude might grab your trousers and yank them off and have his way with you. That's not what you're thinking about. But as a woman, she's thinking about that on a regular basis. So her concerns are different than yours would be. And so the men that she has around her, that matters to her. So these guys will forever be the fellas that these women would be cheating on and everything else because they have to. It doesn't have to be because they want to. Or you're a nice guy, you're polite and everything, but I gotta have a real man in my proximity somewhere because my physical safety is in danger and you are no deterrent and no protection. What good does it do to have access to his financial resources if you're physically helpless in the process?
Correct. Understandable.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. A lot of these fellas out here, like I say, they think they're going to do that, and they think the women are respecting that, or at least they realize the women don't, but they really do believe that as long as he's standing in front of them, that he's keeping somebody else from coming around. I think that's really what they truly believe is happening. Caller from area code 901, you're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Samson from Chicago.
All right, Samson from Chicago, what's on your mind?
Well, Jason, you know what I think it is? I think it's an appeasement. They are pretty much shaking in their stilettos because they may overturn same-sex marriage.
Yeah, that's
I think
the
they're
other
crying
thing.
out.
You're absolutely right. This was preemptive for these other folk here. Trey on Zoom, I'm going to get to you here next. So just stay on Zoom there. I'll get with you here in just a moment. But you're absolutely right. That's why you're seeing so many of them jumping up there now. So absolutely. You're absolutely correct about that. They think it's preemptive, and they're speaking up for themselves in that regard. At least some of them are, but not all of them. There really is a core of fellas out here who this is their mating strategy. Their mating strategy is just endless pandering and virtue signaling. Whatever it is the females want, let me just pretend to be that or try to be that. I'll genuinely, whatever she wants me to be, I will genuinely try to be that. In other words, these guys really do think that they're setting themselves up and presenting themselves as a woman's best option. They really do believe that's what they're doing. Now, you and I can see it for the joke it is, but brother, what if your vocabulary doesn't go that far? Masculinity is a vocabulary. It really is. Masculinity is a language. And if you don't have masculinity as part of your language, it can't work. You're missing core elements of communication that you need. And you can't fake it, brother. You can't fake masculinity. You either got it or you don't. You can't fake it. You can't fake being a true to the wool game man. You can't fake it.
I hear you, Brother Jason.
Pandering is just a way of trying to camouflage the things you don't have. And problem, nothing puts a bigger spotlight on your deficiencies than begging. Begging puts a great big Hollywood spotlight on your deficiencies.
Yeah, and they're begging. They're begging for support if this happens with them in the same-sex marriage. Okay, I hear you, bro.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Let me go ahead and get Trey here up on Zoom. Go ahead and get your camera still for me, Trey. Turn your mic on, Trey. You have your mic off. Go ahead and turn your mic on, Trey. Your microphone is off. I've had Trey sitting there for a minute, so I'm giving him a moment.
I don't have.
Okay, there you go. Your mic's on now, Trey. Yes, your mic's on now.
Can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Excuse me, hello?
Yes, sir, I hear you.
Still messed up?
No, your mic is fine, Trey. Stop messing with
my
it.
mic is unmuted.
Yes, your microphone.
Unmuted.
Your mic is fine.
Well, I mean, I can't.
Your mic is fine, Trey. He's got a lot of issues going on there. Trey, we can hear you just fine, but I don't want to start a conversation if you're not hearing me. Okay. Trey is apparently having some issues over there. Trey, we can hear you and see you, but are you not hearing us?
Come on, man. Come on. I'm over here listening.
Okay, well, we can hear you and see you, so I'm not sure what's going on with him there. We'll try him back later. Let me get caller from area code 210. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello, Jason. This is Tony from San Antonio.
Tony from San Antonio. What's on your mind?
So, I just joined this show, but I heard you talking to a caller trying to define hypermasculinity. I think I could probably, articulate that what would qualify as hypermasculinity. For me, I think, best way you can say will be hypermasculine will be something that's like a masculine trait that is overemphasized, but not balanced across other things that encompass being a man. Like, for instance, I remember one of your old videos when I first listened to you was talking about how the difference between humans and animals is humans marry, animals mate. And I think a hypermasculine example, let's just say like what we've been talking about, like Future. Think of somebody as a man who basically leads through life usually from his phallus or just from pleasure, but not necessarily from a strategy or necessarily from an intelligent point of view. And not necessarily mean that necessarily he has any real game or any real swag, but basically what he would do with something like animalistic, like hook up with a lot of women and purposely impregnate them just as a way to, let's say, like keep them in his circle and like handcuff them. But that would be like an example of hypermasculinity, I think.
Okay. Well, that certainly could qualify on a logical basis. So I can understand what you're saying there. That could qualify. You're going through the motions of something there that masculine beings do. He's taking it to excess, but what takes it to excess, of course, is having all these children. However, if procreation were simply limited, if masculinity's definition were simply limited to procreation, that'd be a slightly more compelling argument. Though most of what you're saying, I think, does qualify. I think most of what you're saying does qualify there. I don't know if I would define it as hyper masculine. I don't know if I would define that as hyper masculine, however, because
maybe unbalanced masculinity. Maybe.
Well, here's the thing: if we were to say hyper femininity, what would be the definition of hyper femininity?
Well, honestly, like sometimes if you think about like some of your like stereotypical I guess like wannabe thugs, like these guys who like would like kind of like carry themselves like they're street dudes and stuff like that, like they're tough and raw. But the thing is, a lot of times they'll like run their mouth like women.
You missed out here, brother. No. You missed out here. I said what would be defined as hyper feminine.
Well, okay. Well, let me speed up to the point then. Basically, when a man is running his mouth or just kind of just going off of emotions, like say he starts a fight over someone stepping on his shoes, that's something a woman would do. Like you think about like women who would fight each other.
Okay,
over
brother, you're not listening here. I'll try this one more time. We've already discussed what hyper masculine is. However, you can't have it in context until you have identified what is the contrast to it. What is its opposite? So, what would qualify as the description of hyper feminine?
Okay. Well, honestly, I guess I gotta restructure that point there. But I guess the only thing I can think of immediately like would just be something like the way women will fight over like things that men would usually like compliment each other. Like say you and me, if we were in the same place and we were wearing the same suit, we're like, oh, this is a guy with some good taste. If we were women, they would be like, oh, this is my dress. She stole my dress. I hate her. That's like a hyper feminine or maybe even a toxic feminine trait.
Well, certainly, like I say, we can name what we think are quintessential feminine traits. And you were talking about things that are masculine traits, your ability to attract women and to have sexual interaction with them. But we're feminine. We can't really define what would be a feminine trait taken to a hyper excessive extreme. Not sexual, not just, being oversexed. So that's what I'm saying. If the only definition of being hyper is in the masculine, that to me is a problem. If we only, that's like toxic masculinity. If we can only, if only masculinity can be taken to a problematic extreme, then I would question whether or not those extremes that people are talking about are valid.
Well, I guess maybe I'm not articulating it well enough. So I guess I'll have to come back when I can better articulate it. But I can definitely say there are things that women do that are problematic. I just can't necessarily articulate at this point. So I'll take myself off the line now, sir.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Well, they took their shot for it here, and like I say, my job is to allow them to do that. The real point about it here is this doesn't do us any good. And there are a lot of fellas who will see this kind of behavior and they're going to say, well, you know, this is the easy route to getting approval. This is the easy route to getting acceptance. This is the easy route to getting sexual access. And the problem is it's not an easy route at all. It's because it's not a route. It's not an easy route at all because it's not a route. There isn't actually a pathway to getting anything here. Because women don't respect weakness in a man. A woman would rather have a man who is diametrically opposed to what she's doing and is reliable than to have a weak, quizzling, acquiescent, obvious butt-kissing liar next to her who's going to tell her whatever it is that he thinks she wants to hear. A woman doesn't want you to say what she thinks you want, what you think she wants to hear. A woman wants to hear you say what you actually believe. She doesn't want to hear you saying what you think is going to placate her, because she recognizes that for what it is, manipulation. The reason that women don't like or respect guys like this is because they are so obviously being manipulative. She knows that, well, what you're saying is not in your best interest as a man. How can I trust a man who puts my interests ahead of his own? And these are for females that you're not even involved with. It's not your wife, it's not your girlfriend, but you're putting her interests ahead of your own. A woman can't respect that. She recognizes it for the obvious deception that it is. Let me get caller from area code 703. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from?
CB calling out of Front Royal, Virginia. Okay. Driving the truck right now.
All right, CB calling out of where?
Front Royal, Virginia.
Okay, CB out of Front Royal, Virginia. What's on your mind?
Yeah, pretty much. I just called in. I missed the beginning of your broadcast, but what I wanted to say was basically what you just stated. But when men pander to women, it's usually because of a lack of resources and a lack of production. So it does lead to manipulation, which is what you stated. And also, I wanted to mention that as far as what was mentioned by the previous callers and yourself, as far as toxic femininity and toxic masculinity, I just would sum it up to operating something that you don't respect or understand, like not respecting a motorcycle. So what I'm saying is, as a man, you start operating as a man without really understanding that you're a man. Lack of awareness, per se. And the same thing for females. And that's pretty much all I wanted to say, Mr. Black.
All right, because this is the real thing. Like I say, these things should be self-evident. It's based on how people respond to you. And if you're doing it right, usually you'll get the right type of response. If you're not, you get something else. But if you're finding yourself having to lie and deceive people and manipulate them, that's your first clue that you're doing it wrong. Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. I did tonight's program because I wanted to ask a very simple question. In light of recent events, in light of what we've seen in the ruling of Roe v. Wade, just notice there were a lot of guys out here going way overboard to try to prove something, going way overboard to try to signal that they are in tune with the females, even though what they're describing is actually against their interests as a man. So, I mean, they've gone way over. And I'm just saying, when it's this obvious that you are pandering and sucking up and kissing up. Do you think that women respect you after they see you do this? Do you think that the women that you're trying to signal and impress upon that you are in their corner and fully supportive of, do you think they actually respect this? Is that what you think? Let me get caller from area code 832. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from?
My name is Robert Higgins, and I'm from Houston, Texas.
Robert from Houston, what's on your mind?
I remember a show that you had that you did way back when, and you talked about how people like this, they use this as an opportunity for profit. And one thing that we know, that us being separated, especially within Black culture, that the men are separated from the women, they can see them coming and they pander to them to turn this into some type of profit. And they use those feel-good moments, they talk well, to draw them into some type of culturalistic or something that's going to profit them in the long run. It's all about money at the end of the day. And I feel like these guys, they put them at the forefront because there's something coming in the later line for them to turn this into a monetary gain.
Well, that's one way of looking at it there. They certainly could do that. The real question is, does it work?
Well, I guess I guess if you're not aware of what's going on and you don't have anybody in guidance, you're only going to go to what you feel, I guess, on the emotional side. You know what I'm saying? The women are going to flock to these guys to a certain extent because they're going to tap into their emotion. But at the end of the day, they're not going to be looking for nobody like this. Nobody. No, I don't think no woman will be looking for a guy like these guys talking.
And the real thing is about how much effort they're putting into it. They got their faces, their names out there. They are swinging for the fences. And this is a one-way trip for your manhood. You don't get to recover it after this. This is just a one-way trip. And this is a hell of a way to go. And to prove what exactly? I'll let you have the last word.
I'm going to say with this is no different than being labeled like you were back in high school. And by them putting their faces on the forefront and trying to put themselves to the front, they're going to be forever labeled. And like I say, the internet is undefeated, and it's definitely going to defeat them in every way possible. And they're going to forever be labeled as men with no type of masculine traits. That's it.
All right. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. We appreciate that. I didn't do tonight's program here to denigrate or degrade anyone. I just did it to ask a basic question about whether or not this type of behavior is something that women respect. And at its core, they obviously can't respect you. There's nothing masculine about you. You're useful, don't get it wrong. You're useful. And there's a part of, as I said, there's a part of masculinity that is handy, but you're useful in an exploited type of way. You're not useful as in you're useful to everyone. You're just useful to be used and exploited. And no one values somebody who's easily exploited, because easily exploited is easily dominated. That's a bad situation for you to end up in. Caller from area code 470. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, this is Joe calling from Nashville.
Joe from Nashville. What's on your mind?
Hey, I just wanted to state, I'm kind of mixed feelings about it. For one, I think that a lot of women do like to be pandered to. And I've heard situations where you tell women the truth and they get super upset. You know, they can't handle it. You know, kind of like the Derek Jackson, if I'm saying his name right, like what he does and some guys do online, or even some situations I've heard where, you know, through friends, where they're maybe going on a date with a girl and they're talking about their ex, and it's just guys who are, you know, just pretty much kissing their behinds. and telling them what they want to hear. And so I've actually, from my experience, just kind of not playing that route and kind of being straightforward with women, like, look, this is what it is, this, and the third. A lot of times women, it's very hard for them to process this. And just a quick example, I went on a date with a woman, and she was like 31 years old. And I was letting her know, I'm like, well, you understand, like after like 34, 35, women kind of go toward geriatric pregnancy. She didn't take that well at all. And so I say that because I think that, I do think that women respect masculine men. I know for a fact that they do. But at the same time, too, I think that they like to be lied to. And I'll land my plane there.
Well, I mean, certainly I've spoken about that before, that, women do appreciate having a man who's very deceptive, and until it comes back to bite them. It's all fun and games, and it's perfectly tolerable until it bites them. When that occurs, then all of a sudden she loses all respect, all attraction, and everything else. Now, as far as the men who can get away with lying to them for an extended period of time and get any type of benefits from it, like I say, that's going to be a certain type of guy. He's going to have to deliver something. Derek Jackson was at least delivering something to his wife. It wasn't just all downside. He was actually delivering something. These Poindexters sitting up here with all this nonsense, they're not actually delivering anything. They can be easily exploited, they can be easily used, but they're not delivering anything. So the amount of deception that she's willing to tolerate from them is going to be totally different. If the only thing he can do is show up every once in a while and maybe help her push her car out of the street or mow her lawn for her, if that's all he can do, he's not going to be able to do the type of egregious lying that a Derek Jackson or a Future would be able to do. Those guys could be really out of pocket with it because there was a certain amount of upside. But to these fellas here, the women aren't even physically attracted to them. There's nothing about them that says, come here to them. It's all downside with the occasional exploitative interaction, but it's all downside. So the women know they're getting over. It's like having an employee is what it's like. Having those guys around is like having an employee around. It's not really somebody, you might like some of your employees just like you might like some of your coworkers. Then again, there may be others whom you can't stand, but if they help you keep the place open and they're useful, you'll tolerate them, but that doesn't mean you respect them. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller from area code 904. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yes, this is Mike calling out of Duval.
Okay, Mike out of Duval, where?
Jacksonville, Florida.
Okay, Mike out of Jacksonville. What's on your mind?
Yes, the question of the night is, can it work? And I'm here to kind of tell you, yes, it can work. But these type of fellas, I was in the military back in the 90s, the Navy to be exact. And you would just be shocked at all type of men that you just run into because you're in a small space and there's nobody else to hang with. And you see a lot of this kind of shit working. Dudes paying for women left and right. Dudes pandering to women left and right. Like, you actually just see this. So to assume that some of this stuff, these tactics doesn't work. I saw it firsthand in the 90s when I was in the military that it does.
Okay, well, that's one
Just
thing.
to answer your question.
That's one thing to be just stuck on the shit with people, but the real thing is compared to how many options you have.
I know.
Does a woman with a world of with a world of options stop and give the time of day to guys like this, no matter what they're saying?
Well, unless you was in the military, because like I said, when you're in the Navy, is military life and then civilian life. You really don't until I got out of the military. I kind of forgot how civilians operated. But when you in that confined space, that is kind of real life for you. And like I said, for that small period of time, I did see that kind of stuff working.
Well, certainly in those environments that could work to a limited extent, yeah. But then again, so would a women's prison. You could get women to make those kind of choices if you lock them up in prison. So yeah, if you artificially deprive somebody of choices and options they would ordinarily have, yeah, that could occur. Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. He's going through the car wash, through the drive-through car wash. But yeah, if you artificially limit it, the problem is 99% of the female population is not artificially limited in that way. They've got whatever set of options they have available. So yeah, if you could just cut off all the rest of the men available to them, well, yeah, they might settle for something else. But first, you have to cut them off from it. You have to make that happen first. If you can't, it doesn't work. There are a lot of young fellas who are going to be tempted to fall for these things. You're coming up through your formative years and you're telling yourself it becomes very, very tempting to emulate guys like this, especially when you have the news media talking to you, might have your moms or your aunts or whatever talking to you. And it can be very, very tempting to do this because you might be socially awkward. You see guys who have physical attributes that you don't. They might be athletic. They might be really tall. They might be naturally slim or muscular. They might be naturally outgoing, and you might be a little shorter, socially awkward, kind of inept. And compared to them, you know, the females don't just respond to you in that raw, primal, physical way. So, of course, you're doing what you can. You're trying to say, okay, how do I level the playing field? How do I equal this out? And it can be very tempting to fall into, well, let me go ahead and just pander. And whatever the females want, let me just be their bootlick. And whatever it is they say, let me just go for that. Especially for young males, it can be very, very tempting to fall for that and be susceptible to it. But I advise you not to be. I advise you not to. Let me get caller from area code 816. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is Apex calling out of Honolulu, Hawaii. Please, Jason.
Apex out of Honolulu. What's on your mind?
Yes, that first caller, that first gentleman who said we don't, society is already built, so we don't need to operate as hunter-gatherers. I'm in the manosphere, and we get females who are detractors, and they use that phrase a lot. That's their go-to move. So when I heard that, my ears went up, my ears perked up. I said, he used a female talking point to refute you or to attempt to refute you. But the thing is, even though we don't live in an agrarian society and we're not technically hunter-gatherers and whatnot, what have you, those same skill sets apply. They just look different. You have to be we as humans have cultivated those skills over thousands of years. So we put those same skills to practice in our daily job, in our daily interactions with people, social interactions and what have you. So we're still hunter-gatherers technically at heart in the way we process things, the way we operate. Now, the second portion with that gentleman who was in the military, he said pandering does work. I'm currently in the Army, and I do have to agree with him in 2020. It does. It does work to an extent. But I come with the mindset of, because I see a lot of females gravitating to these dusty, just crusty, degenerate men. I call them muscle car dudes. But when I see them gravitate to those type of men, I automatically write her off the list, because I'm not finna dim my light and degrade myself and lower myself just so I can get sexual access to this female. You know, because what I've noticed, especially in the military, is that a lot of these women, when they come out of basic AIT, if they've been in it for a while, they like control, they like power, especially if they start moving up the ranks. So they want to get into a dynamic to where they can dominate a man or at least have the advantage, the edge on him. So, and I've seen that in the civilian world before I came in. In a lot of cases, the women want to operate from a level of control. What they really want, they want to be able to control that masculine man. But that masculine man is like a lion or a big cat. You really can't do that. You got to approach that with caution.
Well, you know, I mean, they want to make look. The bottom line is, first, a female wants a man who is capable of dominating the world, and she wants to be the one to submit him. And the reason for that is because she wants to lock him down. So you cannot have something that is free and simultaneously locked down at the same time. But that's what they try to do. So reality has to set in that, look, you're not going to be able to lock this man down and he still be all the things that attracted you to him. You're trying to remove them is what you're trying to do, because you can't lock him down and simultaneously have, you know, this individual who is able to operate in the world in that way. That wasn't what he was when you met him. So they want to lock you down because they want to be able to secure the benefits of having you. That's what they're trying to do. Mm-hmm. So by definition, the more valuable you are, you became valuable because of your freedom of movement in the world. That's what she admires about you. And as soon as she has you in her vicinity, what's the first thing she wants to do? Limit your freedom of movement. Because she is afraid that if you can move around, then she's susceptible to lose you to another female.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say that when they do that, they're operating from a place of fear. And what I've noticed is that, like, I'll be on certain dating sites, and I'm an avid, I work out a lot. So, you know, I'm trying to get my body fat down to like 2% or whatever the case is, right? But I'll be on these dating sites and I'll see females in their bios. They say, I like dad bods. Why would you like a dad bod as opposed to a man who looks like a professional athlete of some sort? And then I started thinking about it. Oh, they want a dad bod so that they can have that as a barrier for him to for other females. You know what I mean? So if everybody, you know, if the females out here are attracted to beach bods, I'm gonna get a dad bod so all the beach body chicks won't get my man. You get what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, I would need to see the female saying that before I'd be able to make a differentiation on that. What I can say is, like I say, different females today might like something different. Than back in the day, there was a bunch of females who loved Suge Knight, for example. But for some of these females, I would need to see the female, because it's usually going to be a female whose life is full of struggle that has that going on. So if I hear that, I'm probably like, okay, let me see if the rest of her life matches what she's saying, because she might be a chick who's just honest with herself and like, look, Idris is not eligible for me, so let me grab something that actually is.
Yeah, you'd be surprised, Jason. If you come out here to Hawaii, it's Hawaii's on that LA level. I would say Hawaii and LA is like 1A, 1B. I could flip a coin as far as the attractiveness of the women and just, you know, drop me off either place, I'm good. So it's a lot of them. They out here. But my last point, ladies, you got two choices. You can either get the beta that you can dominate, that you're eventually going to devour anyway, or you can get the alpha and just let him roam and be the big cat that he is. With that said, Jason, you have a good night. Peace.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. I mean, like I say, you take a risk either way. The real thing is, if you're a woman who's on top of her game, if you're a woman who's doing what she's supposed to be doing, that man's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. And as a female, you have choices to make. If you want the best men, you have to also accept the reality that he has options. Your job is simply to make it clear that you are his best option. If you succeed at this, things will go better for you. If you fail at this, just like you can fall out of attraction with a man, if you fail at this, that can happen for you too. This idea that a woman is entitled to a man, that's the real problem. You don't just get a guy and then he becomes a possession for the rest of your life so that you can stop being competitive. If you want a competitive man, you have to be a competitive woman. Let me get caller from area code 510. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, good afternoon, or really good evening, Jason. This is Black Voltron calling out of West Oakland, California.
Black Voltron, what's on your mind, brother?
Well, just listening into the broadcast and missed the first 20, 30 minutes or so. But just looking at these beta males out here protesting with these, I don't know, wildebeest, really. That's what I'd call them. I would say, yeah, it does work. because these are beta males going after beta females. A lot of them. You don't see any of these, these milk toast, weak ass, beta. Well, no, not even beta. I would say more like gamma or micron level males. I can't call them men. Males trying to pander to these wildebeest females. I mean, I was looking. I just happened to be looking at the some of the footage from the marches and protests they had over in San Francisco, and I seen some of them on BART, the transit Bay Area Transit District, and I just you see them with these rainbow flags, and you see them with the protests, but it's like you look at the dudes, when you look at them in the eye, they cut away and don't look at you. They know that what they're doing. They're trying to pander. But to me, it's just more like, they're doing what they can to get some sympathy sex. That's what we used to call it, at least in the 90s, 2000s.
Yeah, but here's the
thing. They're just trying to get some sympathy.
Here's the thing. Is it working? Because,
that's what they can do.
When you say, okay, he's a beta male and he's looking for beta females, here's the problem. Do even beta females desire a beta male?
Okay. Yes. For temporary sympathy sex, yeah. For a little while, it will work for a little while.
Okay, well,
but
now there's a difference between she'll settle for him if there are no other options available versus he is my preferred option.
Oh, hell no! I mean, come on, hell no! I mean, we saw that. I mean, this is to me, this is just a return. This is like kind of like another gas from the feminazi crew trying to push feminism all over again, because. I mean, we saw what happened this year, at the beginning of this year, when Russia invaded Ukraine. All that feminazi babble went out the window when the threat of nuclear war came. All that back talk, all that old scallywag, I don't need no man, them hoes shut the fuck up and got really on code. Oh, you know what? I don't mind cooking and cleaning. I need a man. We're about to go to World War III, and, I think men, hypermasculinity, I need a whole bunch of that right now because I'm scared, I'm terrified. So no, on the overall scale within their whole life, hell no. They want a masculine alpha man. Man, keyword man, not male, not boy, a man, because a man's going to protect, provide, look out for his ladies, and give them what they need and what they want, because he has the means and ability to. Not, because somebody's, just pandering to their, their female ego, their toxic, femininity ego. They're looking to pander to that. And for them, let's be real, that's all they can do. They haven't practiced, the rites of passage for manhood. They haven't practiced being in competition with other males, with other men. And if they did, they failed. And they never learned to get out there and try again, just to keep competing, find out where my faults are, accept the fact that I have faults, work on my faults, make my faults my weaknesses, my strengths, and get back in the game and compete and win. They never took it to that level. So they just, let's be real. These gamma or micron men have just basically thrown in the towel and said, I quit. I'm just going to pander to the feminazi crew, and maybe I'll get some sympathy sex here and there if I can. But, they're like roaches and rats, they scurry, find a crumb here. As soon as the lights come on, they scatter, or the rats, they be in the bushes. You see them at night sometimes, they go out and grab, digging in the garbage can. As soon as you walk by, they get scared and scurry away. That's all they can do. Because in the presence of a real man, they know they can't compete. They know they can't stand up. And they're not even going to try. That's the sad part about it. They're males. They're not men. Let's just define that. That's disrespectful to even call these, especially these clown-ass niggas and shit, even men. They're not men. The men don't do that. They're males. That's all they are. They're boys who never grew up. So,
well, I mean, they've surrendered.
That's what I believe.
They've given up on manhood altogether. So they're just really in a situation trying to figure out, okay, all I got is my betaism. How do I get the females attracted to that? Rather than saying, let me develop my masculinity, is okay, I'm a beta. Let me just figure out how can I get the females to start rocking with that and to vibe with that.
Yes, sir.
And so the females are just lying to them. Because what they're looking for are those verbal pats on the head. Oh, you're so much nice. What they say, oh, those guys over there, they're misogynists. Okay, but the dudes they're calling misogynists are the ones they can't wait to have a baby with. That's
right.
That's the contradiction in it. So the beta is sitting up telling himself, women will tell me how to get them. As opposed to the reality that the masculine man understands a woman doesn't tell you how to do it. She just expects you're supposed to know it. And this guy's thinking that she's going to tell me. So, and here's the really killing part about it. I meant to mention this earlier. One of the things I don't like are guys who look like this fella here, the dude with the checkers shirt on. And I want to, when you think, I'm going to say this exactly the way I mean it. When you take a look at these folks here who go off and do stuff at these schools, I'll just put it like that. When you take a look at those mass school people, you know, those are betas.
Nerds.
Those are Elliot Rodger, the clown in Uvalde, Texas. You know, Peyton Gendron. We can go down the list. It's always these betas and whatnot. It's always these individuals who have this very perverted, insecure, deficient relationship to females. And after kissing their asses for all this time, they'll hang out on Twitch, trick off a bunch of money there if they got it. They'll hang out in these goth areas. They can't even get the awkward goth chicks to be filling for them. And when that all fails, then eventually when they find out, remember with Elliot Rodger, remember he was hanging out with those girls. What sent him over the edge was that being friend zoned. He was in their friend zone. And when they let him know that, oh, there are men we sleep with, just not you. That sent him over the edge. So he was hanging out with those girls. I mean, it's on video. He's hanging out with those girls, and yet his complaint was, I have proximity to them, but they're not giving me access. And all that hanging around was him pandering to them. And they're like, yeah, Elliot's our little brother over here. He's our little buddy, but we're never going to let him in. And then eventually the truth came out, and he just started busting when the truth came out. So these guys will sit there and pretend that they're with it and pretend that they're okay with it. And they'll be defeated for a while, but for a lot of them, they snap.
And I would say, you know, one of the main reasons why they would snap is because, let's be real, a lot of these nerds, these school shooter types, they never learned how to be men. They had failures of fatherhood in their lives. But the most important thing is they had so much pride and so much, vitriol and hate for, you know, the jocks or the men who were in school, getting all the women, is because they never did really learn how to humble themselves. They instead of just looking at themselves honestly and truthfully and saying, okay, I have no game. I don't know how to talk to women. Maybe I should, you know, ask somebody who's getting all the women and humble myself and maybe find out where I'm going wrong, and be, you know, man enough, capable enough to accept the truth that, hell, I got hella deficiencies in my life. No, they won't do that. They'll just say, no, I'm all right. I'm okay the way I am. I'm not going to change for anybody. Fuck those motherfuckers who are getting all the girls and stuff like that. Instead of saying, well, what are you doing to get them? Where, how come you get them and I'm not? Where are my deficiencies at? And being able to take an honest assessment of where they are in their life. They won't do that. They refuse
rather
to.
Than do that, they
women.
think that they're just bitter. First of all, they're bitter, they're angry, and then their response becomes, let me undermine the other masculine men. Let me team up with the females, and anything the females don't like about you all, I'll be their mascot. I'm right there. Don't worry, girls. And what they're really saying is, girls, I'm all here for you. You can all have me, and it doesn't work. So they're angry at the men and think they're going to undermine us because they've never been respected. And then when the females finally show them a fatal gesture of disrespect, then they snap on them too.
The Captain Save-A-Hole theory of life they've accepted in their lives. So, yeah, to me, I mean, you know, all men who've gone through that, you know, maybe there's some people out there who never went through that, but as you're a boy growing up, you start to recognize, okay, I have deficiencies, I need to correct them. these people, these beta males just have arrested development. They never learn to, find and identify their weaknesses, their strengths, and how to improve on their weaknesses to make their weaknesses their strength. And a lot of them, let's be real, they're just lazy as shit. I mean, they won't do it. That's the reason why they're failures in life. And the pandering to the women, they think that's going to be the get rich quick scheme of getting at, getting women, calling them numbers and going on the internet and getting the special theory of talking to women instead of fixing their deficiencies, building up their confidence, and just going out there and practicing and getting better and better and better to the point where, okay, I'm getting the hang of it. It's like riding a bike or learning a sports skill or something. That's why the jocks get the women and the nerds not necessarily, because they've learned through sports that, okay, in order for me to get better at this particular skill, I have to work at it. I have to recognize I have deficiencies in my game, and I'm going to work and improve and practice and practice and practice and practice, build up my general strength, my specific strengths in these areas, and get better and better to the point where I'm capable of performing at a high level. But that takes years of practice. It takes, the willingness to put that time in. And these dudes don't ever want to do that. They want to take the easy way out. They quit and they say, we'll just pander to the women and just go the beta way. And in the end, they end up losing. They become lonely, angry, and probably shoot up a school or a hotel parking lot or a concert like most of these, mass shooters usually do. So I'm going to land on that. Appreciate you taking my call, Jason, and be one to the fullest.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Let me get caller from area code 503. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yes, sir. This is Fred from Portland, Oregon.
Okay, what's your name again?
Fred from Portland, Oregon.
All right, Fred from Portland, what's on your mind?
Yeah, all right. So I got 3 points that I written down. The first one is eye contact, and then the second one is fear of being assertive. So with eye contact, it's like what I noticed was when I was growing up, like kind of in the projects and stuff, me and my friends, we would never really look at each other when we were talking because we trusted each other. But when somebody shady would come up, we're kind of staring at him and seeing what he's saying. But when I got into the work world, I noticed white people, whether I was talking or they were talking, they would never stop staring me in the eyes. And it made me feel weird, like, did they want to fight me or something? I'm not really looking at you unless, there's some type of beef. But it took me a while to, like, catch on, like, oh, they don't trust me. And then the next point is fear of being assertive. I had to get over the fear of being assertive with them the way they were being assertive with me, even though they weren't talking aggressive to me, but they're still staring me in the eye, staring me down because they didn't trust me. I had to be able to come with that same energy, but still comport myself in a professional manner. And then the last point that I have written down is actually a question. How does this work with women? Putting it in a sense where, women are very hostile and they come with let me get him before he gets me type of mentality.
Well, that's something that you always have to be watchful for here. If you are a male that women are attracted to, then it goes a little bit differently because the power dynamic is on your side of the table. If you are a male who is waiting for the women to request you, that's a different matter. So you're going to find yourself in a situation where, if they're looking to get you before you can get them, that could be an issue. Now, by the same token, it's easier to get somebody who's weak. You have to understand you're living in a society today where a lot of the interaction with the males is from a very vindictive, very, quite frankly, sadistic standpoint. Let me just go ahead and punish him. And the easier he is to punish, the better. Why do you think it is, man? I mean, when you go online and stuff, you take a look at these women, they find these little nice guys and just destroy them.
Yeah.
They don't get them and value them. It's not like they sit up here, this little Poindexter dude sitting up here lisping and being all, hostile towards men and whatnot. And I'm like, these women will rip him apart. They would have no mercy on him. None. He's the kind of guy who you would find bawling in an Instagram video, talking about he came home from work and he found his chick on top of another dude and she wouldn't even stop after he came through the door. He's the kind of guy who would be telling that story.
Yeah.
Remember I taught you all that when a woman, you know, when she realizes that your masculinity is not up to code, or she's always known it, they are very vindictive about punishing you for that. It's a no mercy policy. They are very vindictive about punishing you about that. And the reason for that is because there's no consequence for doing so. The weaker, it seems contrary, but it's actually not contrary to female nature. The weaker you are, the more she feels like punishing you for it, because you are safe to be punished. If, however, it is dangerous to attempt to punish you, if there's a penalty or a cost to be paid, then guess what? They're far less likely to try it.
Okay, so pretty much I just need to stick to the game plan, get my weight up, so trying me doesn't look like a good option.
The more you have to offer, the more you're doing. That's what's important. Your value individually is what matters. Not trying to figure out how for someone else to tell you how to do it. You already know what you need to do. Your job is to get your valuables up to such a high level that it's indisputable, that it's beyond reproach and it's beyond dispute. Now you've given people something tremendous to gain, and by definition, if they have something tremendous to gain, they have something tremendous to lose. Let's be clear. Valuable men are not the majority, and resourceful men are even more rare. And highly resourceful men, by definition, are extremely rare, which means there's automatically a built-in penalty that there isn't for somebody else. There's automatically a built-in penalty. And when you have that in place, that's a side effect of you doing what you're supposed to be doing. That's a side effect.
All right. Hey, thank you. All right, yeah, B1, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing, man. Stay up.
All right, thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Let me get caller from area code 563. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Liv from Chicago.
Okay, what's the name again?
Liv.
All right, Liv from Chicago. What's on your mind?
Just weighing in on the topic. Speaking for myself, not for all women, but I know for a fact I am not attracted to guys like that. I like uncompromising, aggressive, masculine men, black men, and I feel that if a woman does settle for a man like that, they're basically what you have been saying this whole time is catching the last train leaving. So even though they know that that guy does nothing for them, serves no purpose, and probably won't even protect them if they need be, because it's the last train leaving, because he probably could provide financially, they're going to take that ride and go on with it. But just speaking from the woman's point of view, no, that is not what we desire at all. And I'll land my plane there.
Well, do you think they understand that?
A lot of them don't, and it could be a lot of, and I'm speaking on the black women, I'm B1. A lot of them don't, because a lot of, one of them ones that, had an on and off again father, where you don't have the stability that you need when you go out there searching for a man. Just so happened on my behalf, my father was, there when he could. I grew up around aggressive masculine men, so I knew, I had an idea of what the man was supposed to be, the provider, protector, producer. And a lot of times the simps are like drowning them out, where, you see more simps nowadays than you see the masculine guys. And I feel like sometimes women can be intimidated about how masculine some of these men are, and that is okay. We are not looking for a man to basically, roll down the red carpet or anything like that. No, we are looking for him to stand up on his own 2 feet and handle the business like he's supposed to. So I just think that's what it is.
All right. Well, thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Well, certainly, like I say, definitely there's a lot of fellows who think that's the cheat code and they think that that's what's going to work. They're trying to find an easy way to manhood. They're trying to find an easy way to rewards, and that's not the way it works. That's not the way it works. Lowering yourself doesn't work. You'll have a bunch of females standing around you. I can't even say a bunch of females. You'll have a few of the dregs left behind standing around you. But as far as anybody trying to genuinely cater or deal with you, that's the part that will not be happening. All they're really doing are making big fools of themselves. They're humiliating and degrading themselves even worse. That's all they're doing. They're not improving their standing. They're not improving their social standing. As a matter of fact, the women hate them now more than they ever have. Because just understand, when you're dealing with women who are obviously carrying hostility toward men, and you think that you're giving yourself a safe zone by proving, hey, I'm not like those other guys. Why, you should choose me because I'm not like those others. I'm a nice guy. Why, I respect women. Whatever the women want to do, that's their choice. You should choose me because I'm not like those other guys who won't do what you say and won't make sure you're always happy. I'm not like them. Some folks who just don't get it. Caller from area code 225. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Peace, Jason. This is Armand. I'm calling from Carrollton, Texas.
Armand from Carrollton. What's on your mind?
I really just wanted to kind of double down on something that you really just made a point about it. These women that have these guys caping for them and, pandering and stuff like that, these white knights, they don't really respect those dudes because, especially when it comes to this past situation that we had with, with the Roe versus Wade and all that, those women know how wrong of a decision that is to even consider, ending a life and stuff like that. And those guys that are pandering for them, they see right through them because no man, there's not too many of us that really like co-sign that.
How can a woman, look, a masculine male, think about that for a few moments. For a masculine male, you are telling him that you want to annihilate his seed? You're telling him that you want to kill his seed? There is no masculine man on the face of the cosmos who's going to be okay with that.
Right.
None. So the moment you sit up here and tell her that you're all right with that, by definition, you just remove yourself from the masculine gene pool. Derek Jackson removed himself from the masculine gene pool as soon as he started telling chicks, ooh, you should go get an abortion. If your genes are really that valuable, how valuable can your genes be if you don't fight for them? If you're telling the woman, oh, well, so what? Obviously, your genes aren't that damn valuable. Understand the communication that you're making, the message that you're sending. If your genes are valuable, you'll fight for them. She fights for them. Everybody fights for something that is valuable. People don't just easily give up something that's valuable. That's not the way that works. That's not the way that works. If it were, bank vaults would be made of paper instead of steel.
One of the things you've always mentioned, Jason, is that that's an extension of a man's lineage. You know what I'm saying? And so, if you, like you said, if you saying go ahead and get rid of that, that means that, first of all, above all, you just wanted to get in, and you don't really care about this chick like that. And this life that y'all created, which y'all did, you don't care about that either. The man is the first person to really make a statement, for something like that. She gonna always, because if the woman went through with the pregnancy, she knew she missed her cycle and stuff like that. She came to you, she said, "Hey, I'm pregnant. What you gonna do?" If you say, "Man, get that up out of here," oh, she already know you full of shit. So if you sitting there fighting with most of these women who ain't nobody really checking for them like that, and nobody checking for the dudes that's out there with them. Period.
Well, people use what they have, and they usually use it to the best of their ability. But if you don't have very much, then you start using weak tactics and weak tools. And the bottom line is, a woman doesn't respect a man. A woman doesn't respect a man who places her on a higher purpose than his own, a higher priority than himself. A woman doesn't respect that. She doesn't respect a man who puts her interests ahead of his. She doesn't respect that.
You ain't never lie with that. Jason, I had to pick that up from you after it happened to me. And once I realized, like, yeah, I did, I played the fool. And then you pretty much reassured it. I'm pretty sure it was on The Business probably like 2 years ago or something like that. And I've never missed a program because the game that you offer, I can never not listen to it. I can't, everybody should listen to your stuff all the time. You like that conscience. So I appreciate what you do, and I'm going to go ahead and let you go, brother.
Thank you very much.
Another
for
great
call
program
tonight. Let me get caller from area code 248. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling
That's
from?
me. Hi, my name is Karma. I'm calling from Pontiac, Michigan.
Hello, Karma from Pontiac. What's on your mind?
Okay, this is what happened. It was on Mother's Day of 2022. And we're going to brunch at the Detroit Renaissance Center. We turn the corner and see 5 police cars, 3 fire trucks. People out there doing their hand visors, looking up at this building. If you're familiar with the riverfront properties, the Renaissance Center is at least 75 stories tall. So I get nervous. I'm like, I just want to turn around because I know somebody is getting ready to jump off this building. Then my husband's like, just go inside because we only have 15 minutes to get to our reservation before we have to pay $75. I said, no problem. Go in. It took me 10 minutes to get up there because I couldn't get on the elevator. I had to take like 3 escalators to get up. So after all of that, couldn't find out what all this commotion was outside of the Renaissance Center until I got home and looked at the news. Guess what it was? A white male climbing up the building like Peter Parker, Spider-Man. He climbed up 20-something floors on a windy day in May on Mother's Day. The police officers finally got him down off the top of the building. He had handcuffs on in the back of a police car. But before they put him in the back of the car, he had a T-shirt on that said, "Fight for Women's Rights." Now, you tell me that's not a panderer. How are you fighting for women's rights when your mother brought you into this world and you trying to kill yourself?
And here's the other crazy thing about this. There was one guy, I think he was up on a damn bridge somewhere. And what I'm saying is, these guys really do believe that they are executing some act of valor. They think they're really pulling off some act of valor or masculinity or whatever that's really impressing women. They really think they were impressing you all. They really think that they were putting themselves at the head of the line as far as your preferences for what you would like in a man. They really did believe that.
Really? Because the first thing I thought was, if that was my child, I would be embarrassed. How dare you? How dare you throw your life away with a gamble? And I brought you here 20-something, 30-something years ago. You lived this long. After incubating in my womb, you going to throw your life away with a gamble for other women's rights who don't give a dead fly about you.
And that's the really crazy part. It would be different. Here's the real crazy thing about these guys. It would be different if they were stomping this hard for women who would stomp this hard for them. The point I made at the beginning of the program is these guys are invisible to the very women that they are claiming that they are, quote, standing up for and defending. They're invisible to them. The women don't even know they exist. The very men who the women are wanting to have to go to the abortion clinic for are the total polar opposite of these guys. They would never go up on a building for something like, hell, they wouldn't go up on a building, period, but they would never go up on a building for some garbage like that. They would never do that.
Exactly.
The men that these women want would never do this kind of thing.
You know how scary that is? You put up a post the other day in your community section on the business, and I think it was window cleaners or something. And I have thought this a lot. Like, you have to have some real, Jesus Christ, on a windy day on Mother's Day. I mean, the gust was out of this world. I said, oh, he wanted to die. You had to want to die to scale the building that is 30-something feet on one side, and then another part of the building is like 70. It's like a cluster of buildings. One is 30, one might be 45, another one is 70. He scaled this building with his bare hands. Bare hands, barefoot, with a T-shirt on. I said he was watching. That's the problem. His mama probably let him watch too many Spider-Man movies. He thought he was Peter Parker. And he had a vendetta against her. Here's your Mother's Day gift, Mom.
Or his mother raised him because he may be white, but he's probably got a single mom. She probably raised him to be the little beta male simp. You know, good boys, good males do what women want them to. Good males don't do this. Good men don't do X, Y, Z. Good, if you were a good man would put a woman first. A good man would make a woman his priority. A good man would make the woman number one. A good man would put a woman ahead of himself. You get the point? So if he's been fed on a steady diet of this bilge, now he's a grown-ass man just looking like an idiot and could have died. Here's the crazy thing. If he had fallen off that damn building and splattered like a tomato, the women that he did it for wouldn't have even put up a Facebook post for him. They would have been like, oh, that guy was crazy and stupid. That's what they would have said.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he could have took his mama to the place I had brunch at. Champagne, avocado toast. Okay, here, Mama, I love you. Thank you for bringing me into the world. Here's your gift. Here's your appreciation. What did he do? He scaled a building with his bare hands and had the police officers and the fire department and everybody else worried. Like, what is this? I got to see a dead body splatter on Mother's Day? He had these other men coming out. They could have been celebrating with their wives and mothers. The selfishness. And guess what? He was white. And he was young. Had the nerve to have on a rainbow T-shirt for women's rights. The lies you tell. I was pissed. He ruined my day. He didn't ruin my day, but he added too much drama to my day with this mess of trying to climb the Renaissance building on Mother's Day with his bare hands. How dare you? You selfish. That was selfish. And you right, Jason Black. Men do not, I'm speechless. That was my story. I'm sorry.
Well, like I said, that's also outrageously inconsiderate as well. He's so busy trying to impress. This is like a guy who takes your car on the day you need to get to work so that he can go have the dealership detail it.
Right.
He doesn't wait till you get home. He's like, I wanted to surprise you. So he takes your car before you go to work. And now you're sitting up here trying to figure out a way to get to work. And then when you show up at work, he's sending you pictures of your car all clean with a big red bow on it. And he's like, you're going to be real happy. Oh, take a look at this. It's all nice and everything. It's like, wait a minute. You took me. I had to sit up here and get a damn Uber or a bus or call my funky ass cousin to come take me to work because you're doing what? But your car, it's all nice and shiny. And if you remember the ex that you were with before, you always talked about the fact that he never took care of it. I just wanted to show you that, I care about your car more than I do about my own. And that's what. And you're just sitting here saying, you're saying, even if you never say it out loud, you're saying in your head, I would never sleep with you if you were the last man in the cosmos. It would just be the end of the human race. I just wouldn't do it. You're pathetic. That's what you'd be thinking. This is overcompensation on the wrong side.
Facts. Wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole, and I would be humiliated and disgusted if any one of our 3 sons ever thought to do anything like that. Like, just, you know what? Bringing a baby into this world is a gift. It's one of the highest privileges that, okay, I'm just going to speak for myself. Out of all the jobs I ever had, and I haven't had one for 20 years, that's the highest privilege that I can ever think of having. And if one of our children decided to throw his life away like that on Mother's Day, you know what? Take me out. I don't even want to see it. I'm done. That's all I had to say. That was my little story time.
Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Very good way of putting that too, by the way. These fellas are willing to risk life and limb for people who don't even know they exist. People, come on now. You're willing to throw your life away. You're willing to risk life and limb. You're willing to lose it all for for a group who doesn't even know you exist. And even if they saw you, they would be disassociating themselves from you. That's what I meant before about masculinity is a vocabulary. And you can be completely inept at that vocabulary. You can completely lose the ability to speak. Being masculine is a language. Being masculine is a language. And you can find yourself unable to speak it. Or in their cases, you end up here just babbling out nonsense. And the very people that you think you are impressing are sitting there repulsed by it. That's the crazy part. The very people that you think you're knocking out of the park impressing are just absolutely revolted by you. And they can't figure out why. They'll be sitting there saying, but I did everything you asked. I did everything I was supposed to do. And the truth of the matter is, women are not looking for men who approve and give in to their every whim. They are looking for men who set a pathway and walk that road. That's what they're looking for. And we all know how this story ends. These guys up here, they'll end up being cheated on. Their women will wind up cheating on them with the guys who would never do the things that they're doing. That's the sad part of it. And they will feel betrayed, and then they'll be the next ones wanting to get out here and go up on another high building with a firearm or something because I got betrayed by the women. No, you got betrayed by your own cowardice is what you got betrayed by. Your own weakness did that to you, not the women. You don't fit in with the men, and then ultimately when it falls apart with the women, what do you have left? I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here tonight. I don't want to beat the dead horse. I was already on Twitter Space earlier today, so I've been doing this for a little while here. But I plan on being back here tomorrow night. So if you want to join us here, then you are definitely welcome to do so. I want to thank everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program here on PayPal, Cash App, or Super Chat. So thank you very much for your support tonight. Mark Two Square, Keith Lashley, hadn't seen you in a minute. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Michael Smith and my dude Truth First 313. Thank you very much for your support here in the Super Chat as well, brother. I appreciate that. I appreciate you as well. And I want to thank you all for joining us here tonight. If you are new here on The Business, welcome to the program that laid the foundation upon which all these Red Pill, MGTOW, and all these other folk are going to mess up and screw up what they heard here tonight when they try to steal it and rework it next week. But you heard it here directly. Make sure you click that red subscribe button and that yellow notification bell. And if you haven't joined us on Patreon, you want to go ahead and check that out. The link is in the description of the video. We do it every Saturday here. You can speak to me one-on-one for an extended period of time. So definitely make sure you check that out as well. People have been raving about it here lately. I'm very glad to hear that. I want to bring them more. And we're working on bringing you even more new things here on The Business. So keep your eyes and ears open. Even more is coming here now. I want to thank all of you for taking out the time to join us here tonight, and this concludes tonight's broadcast of The Business. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, Mr. Jason Black, and until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, handle your business, or your business will handle you.